Alright, so today we're going to start talking about expressions for this video, and you guys have already learned how to solve order of operations problems. So when we go through and talk about expressions, the first thing that we need to do is talk about different words that mean to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. So when we talk about addition, typically the first word that we think of is sum, plus, altogether. These are words that you guys have been learning since you were in second or third grade that mean to add. I'm sure you guys can think of more than just this, but for right now, these are the first three that come into my mind. For subtraction, we think about difference, minus, and how much more than. That's usually another one that can be a little tricky because if I'm asking for how much more, it's going to mean that I have to subtract the two values to figure out who has how much more, or how much more do they actually have. For multiplication, we have words like product and times. We've also talked about words like double and triple as well. Double means timesing by 2, and triple means timesing by 3. And for division, we have the word quotient, we have the word divided by, we just have the word divided even. But we've also talked about words like share or split too, that would mean to divide. You have a list in your notebook of a lot more words than just what you see right here. But again, these are just to get us started with the problems that we're going to look at today. So on the next slide, you will see that we have 4 different expressions, and we're starting fairly easy with these expressions, but there are a few things that I want to talk about. So in problem number 1, the expression says subtract 4 from 5. So I'm going to go over here to my highlighter, and I'm going to highlight the math word. So the math word there is subtract. So I automatically know that this is going to be a subtraction problem. But it says 4 from 5. So that means that I have to take 4 away from 5. Which number is going to come first there? Should I write the 4 first, or should I write the 5 first? If you said I needed to write the 5 first, then you're correct, because if I need to take 4 from 5, then I have to start with my 5 and take the 4 away. So that expression would look like that. And remember, when we write expressions, they do not include equal signs. So my expression is just 5 minus 4. For the next one, I have the word multiply 6 by 5. So again, I'm going to highlight that math word there, it being multiply. And now I'm going to write out what this expression would look like. So multiply 6 by 5. So this represents 6 times 5. And again, expressions do not show equal signs. So I just write 6, the multiplication sign, and 5. Number 3 says 5 divided by 6. So when I have this one, again, I'm going to highlight my math word, divided by here. And this one I'm literally needing to write just as it's reading. 5 divided by 6. So I'm going to write my 5, I'm going to write my division sign, which I'll explain in just a second, and then my 6. Now, you guys are typically accustomed to seeing this as a division sign. Well, it's important to know that this expression here is the same thing as 5 divided by 6, or 5 fraction bar 6, what I've got right here. The fraction bar is equal to the division sign. Fraction bar just simply means to divide. So if you start to work on the IXLs for expressions, you will be asked to use the fraction bar as the division sign there. So that is important to know for that one. Last but not least, on these expressions, we have add 2 to 8. So again, I'm going to highlight, my math word, which is add. And in this problem, all I have to do is add 2 and 8. So I can do 2 plus 8 as my expression right there. Okay. Any questions on those so far? And we're going to go ahead and look at a few that are just a little bit more challenging. In the 5th grade, you are expected to be able to write expressions that have at least 2 operations in them. And we're going to break them down the same way, but this time we're probably going to find at least 2 words that are math words in here. So for number 5, it says 8 minus the product of 2 and 3. So again, I'm going to use my highlighter and I'm going to highlight those math words, minus and product. I know that the word minus means to subtract, and I know the word product means to multiply. So I have to write this as an expression using both of those operations. So 8 minus the product of 2 and 3. So for this expression, I would write 8 minus 2 times 3. Now you will notice that some of these expressions may need to involve parentheses. For this one here, I don't need parentheses because I would have to solve the multiplication first regardless. Could you write it with parentheses? Sure, it wouldn't be counted wrong if you did. Either one of the expressions here would be correct, but you don't necessarily need parentheses on that one. For number 6, it says double the sum of 3 and 4. So again, I want to highlight those math words. So I have double and I have the word sum, and I need to write those both as an expression. So the first thing is double. So I know that that means 2 times. And then I have the sum of 3 and 4. So that means that I have to add 3 plus 4. For this equation here, I am going to need parentheses. What am I going to need parentheses around? If you said 3 plus 4, then you are correct, because in this problem it says double the sum. I have to find the sum first before I can double it. So I would have to add 3 plus 4 first and then multiply my answer by 2. And again, I'm not putting an equal sign on here because expressions do not involve equal signs. Number 7 says divide 5 by 8, then add 6 to the result. And here's where it gets a little tricky for these. I'm going to highlight my math words, divide and add. And now I've got to think to myself and really use my brain here. If I divide 5 by 8, then add 6 to the result, I'm going to need to write it just as it says. So 5 divided by 8, and then add 6 to the result of that. Now, this problem here is the same as me writing it like this. And I know right now 5 divided by 8 may not make a whole lot of sense to you guys, but it will here in the next few weeks. So either one of these expressions here is correct. And again, you will see problems like these on the IXLs as we start to work on those. So it's important that you have examples of these. That way you're seeing them beforehand and not getting so frustrated on the IXL. So divide 5 by 8, I write it just as it says, 5 divided by 8, and then I add 6 to it. In this problem, I would solve the division first, and then I would add. In the last problem over here, subtract 3 from 9, then divide 2 by the result. So again, I've got subtract, and I've got the word divide. When I go to solve these problems here, I have to subtract 3 from 9 and then divide 2 by the result of it. So we talked about subtracting from the number beforehand on the second slide that we did. When we talk about these, this one you're going to notice is written a little bit differently. If I'm dividing 2 by the result, my 2 divided by has to come first. So I would write that part of the problem first. Then I would write my subtraction part, 9 minus 3. So when I go to look at this problem here, it does ask me to subtract 3 from 9 first. So I have to include something around my 9 minus 3 before I can actually finish writing this expression. I have to include parentheses around 9 minus 3 to make sure that I do that first. And again, this expression is the same as writing it like this, 2 with a division sign, and then parentheses 9 minus 3, and parentheses closed. Okay, so we're going to continue to talk about expressions for the next week or so. Please make sure that you're asking questions to your teacher if you have any questions or if you need any help on these.